the neurological science. Hi, Dr. Sean.
Hello. Can you
Thank
hear
you for
me okay?
joining me. Yes.
Good.
We figured why not just go live at 8:45 tonight.
That's right.
And I want to just dive right in and get right to it because I know people probably want to go to sleep soon. But so can, first of all, also you're doing a TED Talk in a couple weeks, kind of on
Yes.
this topic. So people are basically getting a little sneak peek preview to your TED Talk, sort of.
You
Can I
know,
say that?
it's so hard to put it in 10 minutes. They're only giving me 10 minutes to talk. And what I have, this whole topic is so important for all of us to know. It's a total shame buster. And I am probably going to expand a lot on this information because we need to help people understand more than what 10 minutes can offer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, I had shared that for really almost the past 2 years, I've been feeling like I want to hide on social media. I spent the year prior to that being very vulnerable, very open, sharing with people about my journey with bulimia and stopping that. Yesterday, I also shared that I stumbled again. And several months ago, I had a slip up where I found myself binging and purging again. And that was really shameful for me. I think that was another thing that kept me off social media because I felt like the imposter syndrome of how can I be on there telling people like, share your shame, share your story when I totally just messed up, which is
Hmm.
another lie of shame that we're
Hmm.
not qualified to help people if we struggle because we all struggle. So
Yeah.
tell people like what you saw me saying from a neurological perspective.
Okay, so we have two different ways that we experience emotions. We experience them from our feeling brain, and we experience them from our thinking brain. So, our feeling brain is the lizard brain. It's the oldest part of our brain. It's the part that we share with all other animals. And in that place, we have autonomic responses, automatic reflexes that are there to help us survive. Our thinking brain is later evolved, and that's where we are conscious of what we're feeling and thinking, and we evaluate. We mediate the emotion and we evaluate that emotion. But the autonomic place of our emotions is unconscious. And so what happens is that that part of our brain functions within 20 millimeters of time for it to respond. So it's meant,
Milliseconds. Milliseconds. Is that what you mean?
yeah, it's meant
Okay.
to help us, yeah, to help us respond when we are in the land of lions, so to speak. But the thinking brain takes 500 milliseconds to respond. So it's much slower than our autonomic responses. So it's important that we have that because if we took time to think about whether that lion is dangerous or not, then we won't survive. So we need that part that if there's a loud explosion, we jump up and we run.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is our bodies feel the emotion and then informs our brain, this is dangerous. And then our brain will evaluate it and say, whoa, something really scary just happened. And if our brain doesn't understand why we're reacting that way, we'll create these narratives and these stories to try to explain why is it I jumped up and had that reaction. So our brain, this whole system on emotions, it's very similar to how we sense pain and eyesight and hearing. That my body, our bodies are programmed to recognize fire. If I touch fire, that it's going to burn me. And when I touch it, it sends pain signals that will tell my body what actions to take. Emotions are the same. The ones that are in that feeling brain, that they have certain codes of what they can expect, like what they perceive, what our brain perceives as pain and what it perceives as dangerous.
Well, and
So,
I want to tell people kind of like because the title of this is brains, shame, and social media. And so what I want people to hear, like the direction we're going, is that
yeah,
on social media, we don't get what we need from those senses, the
right.
visualization of another person's facial expressions to let us know we're okay.
Yeah.
And so without even realizing it, we can all be experiencing a shame response using social media. This is
Mm-hmm.
very dangerous for our kids because shame is the lowest level vibrational emotion you can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably explains why I felt this need to hide, and I couldn't put my finger on why am I feeling like I need to hide and I don't want to share on social media, and I'd rather just share everybody else's stories.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me say,
that,
when you gave your testimony, you were in a room full of people. You got to see their facial. Yes, you got to see. Or
when
anytime.
I first talked that I had bulimia, I was in a room full of people on a stage in front of strangers. Yes.
Yes. And so when you're there, you're able, the unconscious brain is able to see people's faces. It's able to hear people's voices. So it can determine.
And those facial expressions tell me I'm safe. They have compassion for me. They're not looking at me like I'm crazy. Right. Someone came up immediately after and said, oh my gosh, me too. I learned I wasn't alone. So yes, it was a very safe environment to share that.
It gives you immediate feedback that your vulnerability was safe, it was welcomed, and you had a repairing. So when you took the risk to talk, you activated your fight and flight response of your nervous system. And after it's activated, it has to feel.
Did we lose you? Can you hear me? Okay, I lost you for a second. I don't know if anyone else did.
Can you hear me?
But you said after it's activated, and then I lost you.
Yes, we need to bring it back down to a rest and restore state of nervous system. And in order to bring it down, we require that we have that warm, welcoming, kind, compassionate responses of other people. So their faces are giving us the message that we are welcomed, we are safe. So when we go on digital media, anytime we communicate to a screen, whether it's texting, whether it's sending a Marco Polo, whether it is doing a live, that device is blocking all access to the information that our brain requires for us to feel safe. So just by its nature, it activates a fight and flight state. By its nature, it says, we are in danger. Something is wrong. So if somebody comes on here and says, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to tell you this thing about myself. And they say it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. There's no facial expressions. There's no voice.
It's just you and the thoughts in your head going, why did I say that? Should I say that? Was that too much?
Yeah. So you don't get the repairing. And so what our bodies say is that feels bad. That's very bad. Something is bad. I must be bad. It must be bad. And it compels us to action that emotion communicates to our bodies to take is to withdraw and to isolate. So when somebody comes on, it made perfect sense to me when you said, I'm fine talking to people when I'm face to face, but for some reason, whenever I come onto social media, I'm uncomfortable and I don't want to do it. And what I wanted you to know is that was a brain thing. Had nothing to do with your conscious brain, had nothing to do with your history, your the strength of your ego, the self-esteem that you have. It had nothing to do with that. That was your autonomic response that was protecting you from a perceived threat that you were unconscious of. Yeah. It's like if I go into a room and I'm with you and I go, hey, and you go, hey, and I see you, right? But what if I go in and I'm blindfolded and I can't hear anything and I go, hey, I don't know who's there. I don't know who's hearing me, who's responding. And just by nature.
Or what if you get a negative facial expression from somebody? Looking you up and down, making a face, you're like, oh, what's wrong with me? You know?
Oh, yeah, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. Well, and something else I wanted to bring up that I think is really interesting that I've been chewing on a lot, and I'll probably talk about it later, is this idea of how it's easier to show up with all of our gifts or all of our ideas or all of our talents when somebody outside of us is giving us permission to do so or validating us to do so. And so, like, for example, this platform of Uncovered that I'm trying to build, nobody's given me permission to do it. I have to give myself the permission. And that is the scariest thing. If you are a singer and you love singing, it's way easier for someone to say, oh my gosh, your voice is incredible. Will you please come and sing at my Christmas party? I want to pay you. Please stand in the corner and sing. That is way easier than saying, I love singing. I'm going to go stand out on the street corner and I'm just going to sing with my guitar open for tips because I love it. Because one is outside validation telling you, you're worthy of this. We want you here sharing with us. And the other one is just you having the courage to give yourself the permission to show up. And so what I've noticed is social media has been very hard for me lately because I'm sitting here going, I'm crazy. Or you know, like I have to have the confidence to give myself the permission to show up. And that's hard.
You do have the confidence, but it's like you're standing on the corner singing with a blindfold and with sound, with noise eliminators, right? Or what do you call that? Noise, like
noise canceling headphones.
Yeah. So you have noise canceling headphones on and you can't see and you're standing there singing. Can you only imagine how your body would feel? You would, by nature, we would be like, am I safe? Am I in danger? Is there a dangerous person here? Is someone going to touch me, not touch me? Are they laughing at me? Are they welcoming me? What is happening? And that is an autonomic response. So all of us are going to have that same emotional response in our body as we do. We were standing on the corner singing. And anytime we take a risk, if we come on here and we put our highlight reels and we're judging it, we're saying, that's good. You know, of course, that's going to be approved by the world. We're still going to look to see who responded, who liked it, who commented, because we need that social engagement. There's two ways we're safe in the world, physically and interpersonally. And the physical, we have our senses for that, sight, sound, taste, all those things. But for the interpersonal, we have social engagement senses. And humans are actually the number 2 most dangerous animals on this planet. The first one is mosquitoes. The second one is humans. And so people can be very
You're for real. Mosquitoes, most dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
Learn something new. Okay.
Kills the most people in the world.
Oh,
and humans, the second. So we don't know that people are safe. And we need to have safety in a social context. Our DNA is inherited. We have a heritage with that. And all of our ancestors' experience codes into our brain what they learned. And they learned that for me to survive, I need to have a group of people that we can teamwork together, we can build.
Right. We need community.
We need community.
We need to know someone has our back, that they support us, that they're with us.
And specifically, we need face-to-face community. If we're replacing our real life communities with virtual communities, our bodies and brains will bug out and we won't understand why. And we'll be at risk of saying something's wrong with me. And then we'll have perceived threat. We'll think that people are doing things to us, that they're abandoning us. They don't like us. They're ignoring us on purpose. You and I talked about, like, when you send someone, let's say a Marco Polo or a message, and it just hangs out there and they don't respond. Now, that's unnerving. If I was in a room with that person and I said, hey, I have a message for you, they go, oh yeah, Sean, what is it? And then I'd have that immediate feedback. But sending it out into this black abyss, I don't know why they didn't respond. And then, because it feels bad, it feels something's wrong, I start creating wrong narratives.
Stories in your head. What did I do? Why did I must have offended them.
Did I offend them? Did I, are they mad at me? I must not be good enough. And all that stuff. So communicating on digital devices and on these platforms puts us in a constant state of stress hormones and negative hormones that we are unconscious of. And we don't feel good.
Well, does it also put us in a constant state of seeking for that outside validation in whatever way we can find it? Who liked it? Who didn't like it? How many likes did it get? How many comments?
The brain says this is bad, feels bad, must be bad, must stay focused on bad. I have to figure out, where is that snake? Where is the danger? And that's where we lean in and we start comparing. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in the middle of the night looking up an X or looking up some girl that we went to high school with that we were so jealous of. Where is she now? Or we look at some colleague that we admire, but we kind of want to be like, and we look at them and think, well, what are they doing? Why am I not doing it? So we start comparing, we start measuring, we start feeling really unhappy with our accomplishments, our place in life, and we just go down that shame spiral. Our solution will not be found in communicating this way. So let me give you an example. I'm sure you've seen either a dog or a cat look to someone they love on a device and they do not have a response to that person, right?
A dog
That
or a
is,
cat?
yeah. Like if
Yeah.
your dog, you like, let's say you're on a trip and you go and you're like, hey, like my little doggy, and the dog's like sitting there looking at the screen, like no reaction. But if you walked in the door, the dog would be like, right, really excited. The reason the dogs and the animals do not respond to screens is because of the missing neurological information. Our brains do the same thing, but our higher brain does not understand why. So then we think, well, what's wrong with me? Like I'm brave, I'm courageous. I go on a stage and I tell people my biggest secret. Why am I bugging out about coming on social media and talking about this here? Now, when you're interviewing someone, you're face to face with them. You get to see their vulnerability and their risk, and you're joining with them and you're creating safety. So that gives you that face to face interaction. But then when you post it, you go home and you post it and you put it out there, and then there's no responses. That is going to be a mystery for us. And our brain won't like it. And our brain's going to want to know why. And then people say, don't pay attention to who's liking, who's commenting. And what I have to say to our viewers is that is impossible. It's like asking your knee not to jolt if someone hits your knee. It's impossible. Or not to jump up if there's an explosion. It won't, it's impossible. So you will feel this way. And I want people to know this because so we can stop feeling bad about feeling bad and stop making it personal. When you find that you want to retreat and pull away from social media, that is your protective survival system kicking in to keep you safe from perceived threat of lion in this weird technology that our brains have not evolved to understand.
And I have to say, I think that's why it's healthy to step away. Like for the past couple of years, I removed all expectation of having to post. Prior to that, I always felt inspired to post, like, oh, I have something to say. And then, you know, it's coming on 2 years now where I've been kind of in this, like I said, wanting to hide. And for a while, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to share. You're fine. But I got to the point where I just knew I needed to kick myself in the butt because it wasn't coming from a place of being uninspired. It was coming from a place of being afraid and wanting to hide. And it was a shame response. And so I just knew I need to get over this. And one of the interesting things too is that what I shared yesterday, I guess for the first time, like publicly, that I had struggled, for anybody watching, I overcame bulimia is what I used to say. And then I ended up getting triggered by going to my gym. Had a competition, my neighbor joined and she wanted to get involved, and they had this food program that they asked us to follow. And I told my husband, I was like, I don't think I should follow this. I think this is going to mess with my head, because when I overcame bulimia, I got rid of all of the rules and I was not going to ever do a diet again. I just knew my brain, like, it messes with me. And sure enough, it totally spiraled my brain. And I was telling you what was crazy is because the next live I want to do with you is to talk about our triggers and how to identify our triggers and how to protect yourself from coming in contact with a trigger, because I was unaware at how fast my trigger can take me down that. It's like my brain goes, oh, we remember this. Diets, like, boom, binge and purge. This is what we do when you're told to restrict. And it was just crazy for me to observe myself from, I guess, the most mature state I've ever observed myself binging and purging. Like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this? Like, you know, you're not supposed to be doing this. But I could also feel my brain just go knee-jerk reaction. This is what we're going to do. And I don't even care. Like, it was, again, like that, I always describe myself feeling like a drug addict, like out of control. So all that to say, I had shared that with other people before I shared it yesterday. So I had
Mm-hmm.
shared that I had fallen off the wagon again. First, my husband asked me point blank, thank God he did, because I probably wouldn't have said anything. I was ashamed again. And then I shared with a group of friends and then another friend. And so when I finally shared yesterday, it wasn't like it was the first time, and it wasn't as scary because I had had moments of sharing first with people who I could see their reactions to. So,
You created that safety already with the face-to-face interactions.
mhm.
We stigmatize our responses so much in thinking that all of this is thought-based. Even triggers, there are thought-based triggers and there are nervous system-based triggers. If I touch a hot surface, I will trigger a response. And that is not thought-based. So when we rehearse something with our body, our thoughts, when our brain finds a solution, like I don't feel good, I smoke a cigarette, that makes me feel better. That's a solution, right? It's already developed in our neural pathways a high priority. So it's just like basketball. If you keep practicing basketball, practicing, you become automatic. So someone throws something at you and you're just like, boom, like this, and you go, wow, that was a fast reflex, right? It's because we rehearsed it. So if somebody rehearsed binging and purging, it is a high priority in that neural pathways. So all you need to do is say, hey, we're going there, and it goes, and it happens really fast. And before you know it, you're on autopilot doing this stuff, and your higher brain is assessing it and judging it and saying, this makes no sense. This is not okay. Our bodies don't judge. It just knows what works, what doesn't work, what we've done, what we will do, and it will just go into that autopilot. So we need to not attribute everything to our will and our choices and our desires and all those things. When people say happiness is a choice, that's bullshit. It's not. It doesn't work that way. When they say be present in the moment, well, in 500 milliseconds I will be able to, but I'm not going to right now. So there's so much about our bodies that we don't understand, and what we don't understand, we shame, blame, and stigmatize, and we're at risk of creating those stories that I'm doing this because something's wrong with me. And that is the lie of toxic shame that we're breaking.
And it's so that's why I love talking to you, because I think the more that we can understand how a human brain works and what it needs to be okay, the
Yeah.
more we can understand that it's not that we're broken, it's that we have a brain that has neurological pathways that just does
helping
what
us
it
survive.
does. Yeah.
Just helping us survive, whether it's environmental dangers or interpersonal dangers. And it's not, it hasn't evolved as fast as technology. It's taken thousands of years to evolve. Technology's taken 10, 20 years. How long have we been on Instagram? I've been on here 4 years. My brain doesn't know, what is this thing? What are we doing? I'm the dog looking at my owner on the screen going, I don't recognize this thing, right? But my conscious brain is, but it's not making that connection. So when I heard you say that, that's when I reached out to you, because I'm just like, that one is a brain thing. What you're talking about, that is our feeling brain that's kicking in, not your thinking brain, and there's a big difference. And so I wanted to share that with you and share it with our viewers and talk about it live.
Well, thank you so much. And if anyone has any other questions, I know, Dr. Sean, you're always willing to chat with people. So send her a message. I think the only other thing I just want to hit home is, we've all come out of a really tough time. We're still in a tough time in a lot of circumstances. We're seeing our kids struggle with mental health like we never have before. And, what is your take on social media and our kids? I mean, if our adult brains are struggling with this, what does this mean for our kids?
Yeah. Well, I think this is why we've had our mental health get worse than it's ever been, ever in the history of our lives, because we have replaced real communities with digital communities. We have school on Zoom. We're meeting with family and friends on social media. And it's just not the same. It's missing the neurological information required for us to bring our nervous system to rest. And so, knowing that, we need to really be intentional about digital hygiene. And we have to, as much as possible, get face to face with people, get flesh to flesh with people as much as possible. And I know with the virus and all that stuff, like wear a mask, get out there, do what you got to do. And if you can't, get out in nature, get an animal, pet your animal, be with life in some way. That is how our brain is designed to understand. Our brain understands nature, animals, life. It just doesn't understand this. But this we rely on, and it's been helpful. I mean, I've been able to do therapy with people this way during all of COVID, but it's still not the same. People will not be able to benefit from the neurological information they'll get if I'm sitting in front of them. And that's just fact. So we have to learn vagal tone exercises, learn about your nervous system, learn about.
Do you think it's the same even for video? Like, is video, is it like it's the next best thing to actually being together, right?
If you want to know how your body is responding, look at how an animal responds to video, because we are the same under our skin when it comes to our feeling brain. So if our dog is not having the same response to video, our body will not have the same response to video. Our higher brain will be able to kind of guide the body. But what we need to do with the higher brain is recognize that our body just got a flood of cortisol and adrenaline. Essentially, when we get on these platforms, it's like having a Red Bull with vodka. You are masking the intoxication with the energy. So like we get the dopamine hits and all that stuff, so we get the little bursts. But underneath that is constant microdosing of the shame, the autonomic shame response, which is, in a social context, something is wrong with me in this relationship. And that creates the feeling of wanting to withdraw, wanting to pull away. And that encourages people to go more on to texting and social media and digital, because they feel they can hide behind that and be safe. Because shame says if people really know you, if they really get to know you, then they will reject you. They're going to leave because something's wrong with you.
So this is why it's easier to post a post just typing out your thoughts and to speak into a video than to post a photo of yourself, because we're not getting the feedback we need that we are okay. So
I think probably the safest social media right now is Clubhouse, because you can hear people in real time.
And I disagree with that. But it's interesting. It's interesting, I guess, why you think it's safe.
Yeah. So the social engagement system, like we know perception, we perceive things. This perception I'm talking about is called neuroception. And it's a theory created by Stephen Porges with polyvagal theory. And what it says is that in order for us to have safety, we have to be in sync, which means synchronous. Like right now, you and I are in sync. We need to be able to make eye contact, hear voices, and be able to see expressions. Well, what other platform gives us in sync communication? We have the telephone. That's pretty cool. That's good, because your brain already knows that I'm not seeing your face, but I can hear your voice and I can hear you respond to me. So when I'm on Clubhouse, I get to say something and you say something, and it's in real time and it's connecting just like a telephone. So for that reason, I think it has it's just a little bit less of an offense than if we were talking on texting or Marco Polo or even when we're live, our eyes aren't really connected. A lot of times when we're looking at screens, our eyes are like off, we're not really looking at each other. So we get delays in responses, the eye contact's not quite right. And that really makes our body go into fight and flight. And because we're using this so much, it's like having a foot on the gas pedal and another foot on the brake, and you're holding them down. And eventually we burn out. And we don't sleep well, we get irritable, we get paranoid, we think that we're not likable, not wanted, we're not close, we're offended by people. We misread facial responses. We'll see a puzzled face, like an angry face, and we'll even alter our tones to our ears will focus on threatening tones because it's primed for a predator. And so we don't hear the positive things. So you know how when you're talking to someone, they go, "Why are you yelling at me?" And you think, "I'm not yelling at you." And they go, "Yes, you are." That is that fight and flight system that's altering the sounds. Or they go, "Why are you so angry?" And you go, "I'm not." And they go, "I see it all over your face." You're like, "I'm not angry. And they go, "Look at you." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, what is my face doing?" And that's because the fight and flight is having a very narrowed in focus on threat. And it just pulls for information that may not be there.
And when we don't have that information in front of us, our brain will create a story as to what other people could be expressing on their face or thinking or speaking about what we share. So just very fascinating. And again, I guess your TED Talk is coming up. So I'm just so excited for you. You're going to be talking about this exact topic on the 7th, October 7th, right?
It's on Saturday, the 9th, and it's sold out, but they have virtual tickets. They're $25 virtual tickets. So if they go to TEDx Spokane, you can buy a virtual ticket and watch it live. They don't always select everyone's talk to be on YouTube. So I don't know if mine would be selected to be able to view later. So if people do want to see it, I encourage you to get a virtual ticket and join us on Saturday, the 9th. Starts at 6:30 p.m. So that's amazing.
Well, thank you for staying up late with me, and thank you everyone who joined in. And if you have questions, shoot them to Dr. Sean. And I'm going to get out of my phone.
And your website, the Uncovered. On Uncovered, you have the Ask Dr. Sean section on the website, so we can address questions on the show.
Yes, you can go to storiesuncovered.com, and there's a little Ask Dr. Sean section. You can submit a question right there. So thank you, Dr. Sean, and thank you everyone who listens.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. How do I turn this off?
I don't know, but I kept my pose.
I don't do this very often. This is really fun. Okay.
See, now, listen to all that we just talked about. How am I going to do that in 10 minutes? That's what I want to know.
Good luck.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But for real, how do you turn this off?
I don't know. Let me see.
Okay,
I'm just going to X out.
I can remove you. I'm going to do that first. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. This is ridiculous. Do I use X? Oh, there we go.